So you're ready to take the leash off the dog and let it hunt? You're ready to move? I am ready to move this holy week. Together? I am ready to move this holy week. And I'm not going to play it safe. Together? And I'm not going to play it safe. And I know we get stuck in patterns because of childhoods where maybe things were chaotic and we equated change, like that change, new instrument, or any kind of change with lack of safety. But we can let go of that and move into an understanding that change, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Together? Change, I love it. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. But change starts with an intention. And remember, the Holy Week experience is a 3-step process. It's that, what do you want, what's in the way, and what are you going to do about it? What do you want is Palm Sunday. It's setting the intention. It's the thesis step. It's the first force. It's where you decide something and you set it into motion. But when you do that, you're taking the leash off the dog and you got to let it hunt. And during that week, during that Holy Week experience, what do you got? All those different experiences. If you read Jesus' story during that week, oh my gosh, they went through so much, culminating in Good Friday. Not exactly what they had in mind on Palm Sunday. That's the second force. So what's in the way? Love brings up whatever's in its way. So the love of your intention right now is going to bring up whatever process you need to go through in order to do what? Well, what does resurrection mean? It means lifting up, literally. To be lifted up. And you might be dealing with a healing need, or you might be dealing with a step in your consciousness, or any number of things that you may be dealing with in your life. I'm going to ask you to think right now, what is it that I'm facing in my life? What is it that where I need to set an intention that will move me forward, and no matter what, I'm willing to move through this, whatever this that may show up, so that I can experience my resurrection. But, Easter never would have happened, certainly without Good Friday, and a lot of people want to skip over that step. I had a guy last week, I was in Annapolis, Maryland, and I spoke at the church there. And the guy came up afterwards and he said, you don't need that second step. You just skip right to the third step. You just set your intention, then you get it. And he was very adamant about that. And I just thanked him for sharing, and after a while said, excuse me, it's nice talking to you. Because I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. The truth is the truth is the truth. And the reality is that when you set an intention, you set into motion forces which are beyond what it is that you intended them to be. Because everything's about spiritual growth, isn't it? It's all about spiritual growth. Moving from a consciousness that we might call attachment to a consciousness we might call commitment. Attachment. Attachment is, I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to get what I want. I'm attached to it. I'm attached to the outcome. I'm attached to the stuff that I have. Even though it was shattering on the inside and all plastic, I'm still attached to it, and I don't know what this thing is. It's 6 inches shorter. Did you know that? I don't like that very much. You've heard that. So that attachment. So where in your life do you have an attachment to things continuing to be the way they are, or an attachment to a specific outcome? And where do you need to shift that to a commitment? And a commitment to what? To spiritual growth, which means on a physical level, whatever is necessary to fulfill. The people who were there on Palm Sunday, I got to tell you, my guess is that they were there because they thought Jesus was going to come in, overthrow the Romans, overthrow the corrupt theocratic priesthood, and set up, a third-dimensional, fulfill the literal scriptures of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible. And he didn't do it. So a lot of those same people showed up on Good Friday and said, you didn't give me what I wanted. And they were upset. How often do we do that? We didn't get exactly what we wanted. But what do you get if you hang in there? Hang in there. Go through the experience. You get more growth. You get more understanding. You get more learning. But it isn't about getting your own way. It's about growing into something new, into something greater, more than you ever imagined. More than you could ever imagine. But you've got to let go of your pictures. So, there's a lot of great quotes. I mean, this is one of those e-tickets. How many of you remember from Disneyland or Disney World e-tickets? Raise your hand. No, nobody does, hardly. Okay. Well, the e-tickets were the best rides. And in the old days, they didn't give you a free pass. You only got a certain number of e-tickets. And you could only go to a certain number of best rides. And this is an e-ticket. This is the real deal. Jesus went on in front of them toward Jerusalem. As he came toward Bethphage and Bethany, the Mount of Olives, he sent two disciples ahead with these instructions. Now you go into the village there ahead of you, and as you go in, you're going to find a donkey tied up that's never been ridden. Untie that donkey and bring him here. If somebody asks why you're untying it, tell them that the master needs it. The master needs it. Who was that? They didn't know. The person who's, oh, it must be somebody important. I better let him get away with it. You know? They went on their way and they found everything just as Jesus told them. They were untying the donkey, and the owner said to him, "Why are you untying it? The master needs it." And they took it to Jesus, and they threw their cloaks over the animal and helped Jesus get on. So what is this? Well, a donkey that's never been ridden on. Now think about this. A donkey that's never been ridden on. Why didn't he come in on a big horse? Why is he on a donkey? And why one that's never been ridden on? Because there's humility, and there's freshness and newness of thought. Never been ridden on before. It's brand new. Have a new mind, beginner's mind. Look at things new. Oh, I don't know what's going on here. How exciting. You know, the first thing we go, oh, that's scary, but you know, how exciting. Maybe I'll find out something new about myself. Maybe I'll find out something new about the people around me. I love telling the story about what happened with Lynn the weekend that she was given her license as a licensed teacher. You know, it was 20 years ago or more. And she put up with quite a lot. And she was there at Unity Village, and she got the very strong guidance that it was time to tell me when she came home about what I would call my narcissistic self-absorption. She was kinder than that, but that's really what it was. So she came home, and she talked to me about it, and she was afraid to do it. Because, you see, she kind of had an idea of how I'd react. And guess what? I reacted exactly that way. I knew it was all her stuff, and it was just whatever, and I was so mad, I decided I'm going to go out and sleep on the couch. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. That'll show her. So now on the couch. That's good, because I went off. It was like going to the mountaintop. The thing is, you've got to be willing to follow your guidance. Here, Jesus got the guidance and told him, go do this totally bizarre and irrational thing that makes no sense to you. And in my mind, this made no sense to me. But before I went to bed, I said, you know, if there's anything to this, I'm willing to see it. And there was enough truth to that statement, just this much, that when I woke up the next morning, guess what? I looked at everything and I went, oh my gosh, everything looked different. Everything looked different. I didn't know why it looked different. It just looked different to me. And I went, oh my gosh, I just knew that she was right, that there was truth in what she was saying. I didn't know how. I didn't know what. I didn't know what to do next. But I went to her and I said, I think that what you told me last night is true, and I don't understand why. Well, she didn't know what to do because she did not expect that and did not have a plan for that reaction. And so I began a spiritual journey where she took the lead in showing me things spiritually. See, I had it all sewed up. I'd been a Unity minister for 14 years. I knew everything that was going on. And she'd been studying with Jane Hart, and she'd been learning things, and I began to open up, the new inputs, and started putting down a lot of my assumptions, good assumptions that get you where you were right now. You know, Charles Fillmore had to go through this back in the year 1890. They'd lost everything. They were at a point where they were going to repossess all of their printing presses, and it was a Saturday night, and this is Charles Fillmore writing this in Unity magazine in 1930 so that people who were in the Depression could understand that there was something going on that they could do about their problem. And so he went to his wife and said, well, we're ruined. It's over. We might as well give it up. And she said, what's your talk about tomorrow? He said, the battle is the Lord's. Well, I suggest that you write it not for me or not for them, but for you. And I will hold in prayer in the other room. And she did. And he had a revelation. It opened him up. And the next day they came to pick up all of their equipment to repossess it. And he looked at him and he said, I am the rich child of a loving father, so I'll get you the money. It was just like, the master needs it. The master needs it. I'm sure the person didn't know who that was or what they were talking about, but it sounded very intimidating. And to these people it said, oh, well, he's got a rich father. Of course, didn't have any idea the father was God. And it bought him a few days, and they exercised their faith, and the money came through. And as a result of this, Unity opened up Silent Unity, the church services on Sunday mornings, and their publications, and it never would have happened. Charles Fillmore said Unity would not have been an ongoing long-term thing. It was just kind of an avocation for a couple of rich retired people. But it became something more. So in your life, where are you guided to take a step and you don't understand it, and you don't agree with it, and it doesn't make you comfortable, and you don't like it, and yet, I've got to take this step. I don't know why I have to take this step, but I'm going to take it. Maybe you can relate to this. Or maybe it's a step that you do want, but no, it'll bring unexpected growth and opportunities, and you'll be tested at times. Do you really, really, really want to move through this? Okay, I'm willing to do this. In the church we were in at the time, maybe a year before that, we had an opening for a public relations person. It was a large church and school, and we needed a person who would do all of our public relations. And it was a paid position. And I advertised for it with the congregation. I got 6 people who signed up for the position. 4 of them had degrees in journalism. 2 of them had backgrounds in advertising. I mean, it was fantastic. And then there was the 7th person. Showed up after the deadline with a handwritten, scrawled, everybody else was nicely typed, handwritten, scrawled thing. Now, I knew this woman. She'd just gone through a divorce. She graduated from college, but she never held a job in her life. She'd been married to a very wealthy gentleman, but it was a very unhappy marriage, and she had divorced him. She had a very, very nice settlement, so she really didn't have to work, but she told me, I just think I need to learn how to work because I need to have a career. Well, thank you for sharing. But what do you do when you need to find out the answer to something? Ask. Go into a space of I don't know and see what comes up. Sometimes circumstances will come and support you. Sometimes you'll get an impression. And in that case, I asked, which of the 6 people should I hire for this job? And her face kept coming up. And no matter how much I asked her face kept coming up. Her face kept coming up. Finally, I just said to her, okay, I'm going to hire you for it. You know the rest of the story is happily ever after, and it all worked out. No, a week later, she came to me and said, I'm going on vacation for 2 months. I said, vacation for 2 months? Who's going to do your job? Well, you are, of course. She'd never worked. She didn't know. I said, well, it's okay for you to do this, but if you do that, I have to get somebody else to do it because I don't really want to spend the time on that. Well, she was not outraged, but very disappointed, shall we say. Did not understand why at all. I wouldn't just accommodate that need the way she expected. She stayed. She did the work. 5 years later, we moved on to another state. 5 years later, I got a letter from her. She was the head of an entire department of the state government, like the top dog of that entire department. And she said that little part-time job, and my working with her, and I had a lot more challenges as time went on, that was what was the making of her, and it was what taught her work ethic, and she was there, because she, turns out, had fantastic abilities. She did a good job, by the way, with the job, but think about it. You get guidance, you ask for your guidance, and then Good Friday shows up. This isn't what I signed on for. Move with it, stay with it, set your intention boldly, powerfully. Know that it's something that is bigger than the goal that you have in mind. You may think you want a healing, or you may think you want a job, or you may think you want a new boyfriend, or whatever the thing is. But what you really want is this spiritual growth. You want to let the leash off the dog and let it on. You want to have your soul, the perfected higher self, be in charge, driving the bus, not your ego anymore. So what is this? This Palm Sunday experience is the Christ coming into Jerusalem. What's the Christ of you? This is all about you. This is all about your spiritual growth. What is the Christ of you? It is that which is coming into your heart and piercing your heart. Jerusalem literally meant the heart center. It's the heart center of your beingness. It's coming in and it's piercing your heart. And remember, love brings up whatever's in its way. Love brings up whatever's in its way. The second force, Good Friday. After you set the intention, the first force, what do you want? Then what's in the way? And you got to let it go. You got to release it. You got to move through it. You got to learn from it. And you have to embrace it. So we'll talk about that Friday night. I hope you can come for that. But right now, think to yourself, what is it that I'm trying to create in my life? A new step. Could be very tangible. Could be just a spiritual growth. It could have to do with who knows what. But in the case that Lynn was dealing with, she came in as Jesus riding on the donkey right into my heart and piercing it. And so much came out of it. Because what results? Greater growth. Because I began to open up to new ideas, new practices. I began to study with Jean Hardy, who she'd been studying with. I mean, I was above that before that. I knew better. I had all the answers. My mentor died by that point, Mary Ellen, and, I was cruising along just nicely. Are you willing to get uncomfortable enough to grow? But first, you have to set an intention that you want to grow. And be willing to set that intention and make it a powerful one and move with it. But something has to happen. You have to get back up. And you have to get back up from those aspects of your being that are willing to back you up, which include very playful aspects of your being. A large crowd spread their cloaks on the road. Others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds went ahead of him, and those that followed shouted, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest." But some of the Pharisees in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell your disciples to shut up." "I tell you," he said, "if you keep quiet, if they keep quiet, these stones will start crying out." You can't stop it. You can't stop it. It's love in action. It's moving forward. You can't stop it. The stones will start shouting. He could repress it, and it's going to come out over here. It's like whack-a-mole. It's going to come up over here. It's going to come over. You can't stop it. I can't stop my growth. Together? I can't stop my growth. Nor do I want to. Together? Nor do I want to. So you move with it. And who was it that yelled out? Those children. Those little children. How dare they do that? The little children. Remember Jesus said, become as a child. Become as a child. It says, the leading priests, the teachers of the religious law saw and heard the children in the temple shouting, "Praise God for the Son of David." The leaders were indignant. They said, "Do you hear what these children are saying?" "Yes," Jesus said. "And haven't you even read your own scriptures? They say, only children and infants can give birth and praise." I used to run the Youth of Unity conferences for 3 years at Unity Village. And I remember somebody who'd been there, a staff member, going back to the days of the Fillmores. Many, many years. Was reaching retirement age. She says, "You know what? It's my favorite week." She said, "It's my favorite week when the teenagers come." She says, "And you know what they always tell me? They always tell me, oh, I love coming here because the energy is so wonderful. It's such a beautiful and special place." What they don't know is that they bring it here. They bring the energy in. They bring the energy in. Yes, it's in you. You bring the energy in. It's in you. If you're looking for a second-hand experience of spirituality, this is not the right church. There's no priest up here who's going to do it to you. Not to criticize that, because that's a stage in development. But this is for the people who want to take the leash off the dog and let it on. This is for the people who want to get the ego out of the driver's seat and let the soul drive the bus. This is empowerment. Empowerment, not a second hand, but a direct experience. What is the direct experience? It's what happens when you open your heart. It's what happens when you open your mind. You allow your heart to be pierced. You ask. You're willing. You open up. And then something wonderful happens. That week of the Youth of Unity Conference, I had one of my classmates who never had children in his life. He was probably in his 50s. But he had this playful attitude, this wonderful sparkle in his eyes. I said, "Hey, why don't you come and put on some things for the teenagers?" He says, "Teenagers? I don't even really like kids particularly. I don't know anything about them. No, I'm the wrong person. No, you need to show up here. You need to do this." His name was Jack Graff. He went on to be a great Unity minister in Raleigh, North Carolina. Some of you may know him. And he showed up. He worked all week. He came up to me afterwards. He says, "I had no idea." He said, "This is the first time in my entire life that I've actually seen unity put to work and unity principles demonstrated. Everything else up until now, as somebody once said, was NATO, no action talk only." He experienced this. He experienced this. So what is this? It's the child in you. It's that childlike attitude within you. It's the infant and baby within you. It's that spirituality within you. It's natural. Jesus kept saying, it's not self-absorbed pomposity. I had a friend of mine say once, "I may not be much, but I'm all I ever think about." It's moving out of that self-absorption, which is what Lynn was inviting me to do. And so moving out of that. And you got to move out of it. It's not taking one step. It's not doing it one time. It's not being born again once. My gosh, what a boring universe this would be if all you had to do was do one thing and then you were set. I mean, what kind of God would do something like that? Certainly a less competent God than any of you would be. And I certainly think that God is more competent. So, I'm having fun with you, by the way. So what is it you can do to move into this experience of expansion and growth and move from attachment to commitment? Move the attachment to a specific result to the commitment of spiritual growth. No matter what it looks like, no matter who shows up, no matter what's going on. You got to be willing. What did Gandhi say? If you fall down in your spiritual growth, if you don't live up to your ideals, just keep moving. And if you can't run, walk. And if you can't walk, he said, crawl. And if you can't crawl, do something. He said, but it's good enough because that's all it takes. And he said, what happens is the joy that results. The joy that results is infectious and powerful. And it will give you more than anything else. It's not about getting a result. He said, I failed over and over and over again in life, but I just pick myself up and I keep moving forward. Just keep moving. Just, Finding Nemo. Just keep moving, just keep moving. Just keep moving. I just keep moving together. I just keep moving. So let's take a little time of prayer and move into this consciousness. And just allow yourself, settle, rest gently in your heart. Allow your heart to be pierced. Allow your heart to be pierced by the Christ of your being, the spiritual nature of you represented by Jesus in the story. But it is that innate spiritual essence of you coming into your heart. And you might think it's about getting a healing or a result, and that's all fine, but move past the attachment to the commitment to your spiritual growth. I'm willing to go through whatever comes up in its way, because I know on the other side of it is resurrection, is a greater answer than I had in mind. I'm willing. And if I've struggled with willingness, I'm just willing to be willing. Just that little tiny bit. Give God a slight opening. Crack the door open. Make your commitment and move with it this Holy Week. Thank you, God. And now take a deep breath and let it out. And set aside the papers in your hands. And if you will, open your hands and feel the energy that's there. And take another deep breath. And move into a space of receptivity. I'm open and I'm receptive and I'm willing that something different happen in my life. I'm willing to let go of my idea of what spirituality was, what God was, what my good was, even who I am. I'm willing to let my soul, my perfected soul, my higher self, the Christ in me, be in charge, drive the bus, take me where it will. And I'm willing to let go of all the pictures that I've had in my mind of what my good was. Today is the day where I set my intention and I focus my heart energy. I allow my heart to be pierced so that I can have something new. I can move to a new level, a new experience of being. And so I take another deep breath and I let it out. And I imagine that I'm walking up some stairs to a door that I designed. It's beautiful, beautiful door. And above it says, Room of Light. I'm not sure what that light means. I don't even know what this means. I'm just willing. So I open the door and I walk into the room. And within this room, there is the most incredible light. It streams in from every side. Natural light from every opening. Just get in touch with the energy as it comes in. As this light touches your skin, it energizes you, lifts you up, and heals you. And notice there's a chair in the middle of the room that is perfectly designed for you, whatever you want it to be. And go and sit in that chair and look around the room. This is the room of light for you. This is the light that you're being led into by the Christ of your being, the inner soul nature. And again, feel yourself being lifted up into this incredible light space. So powerful. So filled with light. Remembering that this Holy Week experience is one of resurrection. Resurrection literally means to lift up. And so lift up into the light, your mind, your heart, your experience, and say with the strongest, most fervent intention, "Oh God, pierce my heart. Pierce my heart with a new peace, a new joy, a new awareness. Pierce my heart with new guidance, new healing, and even that which is unexpected. Pierce my heart." And as I feel myself lifted up, expanded, I experience this light more and more. I feel myself growing in this light, expanding in this light, embracing this light. I just take a moment to celebrate and embrace this light without word, without thought. In this room of light, I receive the guidance that I need. In this room of light, I receive the healing energy that I need. In this light, I see more light. Light on my path, light on my soul. And I trust, I trust, I trust, I trust. This Holy Week experience may include a lot of different things, many unexpected, but it is leading to the fulfillment of Easter. And I embrace it all. I set my intention now, Palm Sunday. I'll go through whatever process of release I have to, Good Friday, so that I can experience the spiritual fulfillment of Easter. Thank you, God. So we're going to bless our offerings now, and I give with my heart and I receive abundantly. Together,
I give with my heart and I receive abundantly.
And silently. And again aloud together. I give with my heart and I receive abundantly. And so it is. Amen.